All right. Well, welcome to Reddit Psychologist. We're gonna kick this one off today, having a look at whatever's the most recent. I'm noticing the top one is actually an update, and so we're going to skip over that one and go to whatever the next one is. I hope to just practice this in the future, where you can see I'm not cherry picking stuff. I haven't looked at this, so this is my first open of it for the day. Just sort of in my in between sessions at the moment. You can see I'm in my therapy room here. So yeah, do what we normally do: open it up, have a read of it, and then see what we have, see what we think about something like this. So I'm going to this one here, titled "Am I the asshole for not doing anything for my stepchildren anymore after being called names and filing for a divorce from my husband after he didn't back me up?" Oh, it's another update. All right, we'll skip that. Am I the asshole for telling my sister I'm not the mother of her children? Okay, it's the next reasonable one, but this looks like rage bait straight off the bat. Okay, this is wild. Let's go. Am I the asshole for telling my sister I'm not the mother of her children? I'm an 18-year-old female, and I have an older sister, 29, who has two children ages 8 and 4. Most of my childhood was spent taking care of her children while she went out to parties and such. Now that I'm going off to do a course in practical nursing to boost my resume for university, she's asking me to put my future on hold and look after her children so she can enjoy herself before I leave for university. The thing is, my mum warned me when I was young not to babysit or look after her children because of her attitude. I didn't listen. She also said this might be my sister being jealous because she used to go to nursing school but made friends with the wrong group. In the end, she didn't pass her final exam, so she dropped out of school. So everything came to a head yesterday because applications for a course started yesterday when I was talking to our mum about it. My sister heard that I applied. She got upset and started shouting about how selfish I am and how this is the only thing she's ever asked me to do, like I didn't spend my whole childhood from age 11 to now looking after and taking care of her children. I told her to stop being childish and that this isn't my fault she had children and I'm not their mother. The children call me mum. They did for about 2 years. Even when corrected, they still call me mum. Apparently, I should have said this sooner. She started yelling at our mum, saying I'm her favourite, because if I wasn't, she would tell me to put my future aside and help her with her children. Our mum told her point blank that she would never tell any of us to put our future on hold. She said she gave us all the same opportunity and it's not anyone's fault that she didn't use hers wisely. Now she has children and I'm going to take my life more seriously. She needs to take responsibility for her children because no one told her to have them and she can't look after them. She started crying and left. Then my mum started yelling at me, saying she warned me from the very beginning and I didn't listen. She said I needed to stop being a pushover because I lost my whole childhood when I was supposed to be outside playing with friends, going out and just being a kid. I was babysitting like I gave birth. She said it's my fault my sister became so entitled because when she made plans for me to go out, when her mum made plans for her to go out, she would cancel that to watch her sister's children. She's not wrong. I would always feel sorry for my sister because she knew how to manipulate me just because I don't like to see people suffer or be sad. Sorry for the long post. I just want to know if I'm the asshole for not putting my future on hold. All right. Is this rage bait? Probably not. This is if it's creative writing, it's been done very well. This is, I believe, how an 18-year-old would write and think, and it's very easy to get confused when you're 18. It's funny. I was watching Shits and Giggles yesterday where they were talking. They're around about my age. They're in their sort of early 30s, and they're talking about how young children look. How young adults look. So when they're 18, and they're talking about how they remember when they were 18 and sort of how big they felt. And I remember, I think it was it's not Fuad, it was James was saying that he remembers when he was 18, he thought it's like this is what I'm going to look like until I'm old. I'm just going to be like like this, and then at some point and it's just not like we continue to grow for a long time, and it's really mid-20s before you look like you're probably going to look like for a fair while. So I think when you're reading something like this and going, okay, how can an adult think this way? No, we're talking 18 and somebody who, by their own admission, has probably not spent as much time with their peers as they should have to develop, frankly, the sorts of skills that would have told her a hell of a lot sooner that she was experiencing this kind of manipulation. So I think, where do we start off with something like this? Is it rage bait? Probably not. This, I feel like this is a real person that you could quite easily see. Right. Where would you start with a situation like this? Okay. Where I would start with a situation like this is actually got to do with, okay, she tells you, I spent my whole childhood from age 11 looking after and taking care of my sister's children, right? Now, that's a problem. An 11-year-old can't decide jack for themselves. They are very easily pushed around. And yet we then later on have a mother who is, according to her, mum started yelling at me, saying she warned me from the very beginning and I didn't listen. Now, that I believe is the problem with this entire situation. I believe we have a mother who has, for whatever reason, handed over to an 11-year-old a chance to make a situation with her then 21-year-old sister, who has a vested interest. Yeah, she's sort of not helping her daughter to make the right decisions. So she tells her what she probably needs to hear. And I'd say mum has a bit more knowledge at this point to go, okay, I know this older sister is manipulative, etc. There's clearly something going on. There's a big age gap. If these are the only two siblings, then that's interesting to me. This could actually be a step sibling situation or whatever. Otherwise, it is an unusual break. There's no mention of a father, so this could be like that she is. There's a chance in this story that this 18-year-old female is an unplanned child, which would explain to a certain degree the potentially lower investment and that more feeling of, you'll make the right decision, spend for yourself kind of stuff, because we know that's fairly typical of unplanned children. So again, that's, that's outside the situation, but that's the sort of information that I'd be looking for to go, what is likely impact of this person's ability to see things from, well, I guess this person's ability to be supported to make better decisions, and what's the likely level of investment. So that would just be a detail that I'd be interested to know, the likelihood of whether or not this was a planned child, because at that point, it does change some details about what I would expect of this person. Certainly with, like, what would you do with a situation like this? The first thing that I like to do with people is we're going to think about your 11-year-old self. And very often that's quite difficult. And so I might try and just pull up a Google picture of a child that is allegedly 11 years old. And I think this has been pretty powerful for people in the past. When you show somebody an 11-year-old and then say, right, I want you to tell this child that they are expected to make the right decision around the care of their sister's children. And you just got to look at an 11-year-old and go, what are you talking about? So like, that's a child. They don't make decisions about Jack. If you don't want them to do that, you will stop them from doing that. And I think that sort of helps to really shake things into perspective, because what I find is we always lived our own life. That might sound like the most nonsensical thing to think about, but what I find is people actually struggle to separate their older self from their younger self, and they bring the weight of their current decision-making ability to bear on their younger self, as if their younger self had that capacity. And I think this is one of those things that you would use to like kind of break people out of that, is go, well, can you say what they are requiring you to say to yourself? Can you say that to a random 11-year-old that I show you? Would you hold those expectations of this child? And generally speaking, people know there's no way. There's just no way that you can do it. And I find it starts to break that connection of, oh, okay, it's unreasonable that my mother left it in my hands whether or not I got involved with somebody who, reading between some lines here, my mother suspected had every interest in manipulating me. So that would be a good place to start. on that one to really go, okay, you were given a decision at a point in time where you couldn't make that decision. And by the time you were old enough to really think that through more, you were just in the pattern of doing it. That's your autopilot. That's your normal. You're not changing it at that point. Where would we go to here? Like, obviously, if she wants to study nursing, you go and study nursing. I often I get a big thing about the consequences of one's own actions. At this point, you've got a 29-year-old sister who, frankly, her job is to take care of her children. Children calling me mum is, okay, that's kind of a funny detail that the individual here thinks is relevant and is just completely irrelevant. It's a red herring. You could get tied up on that and it just doesn't matter. Like, your relationship with their children, I think Paul Blind Freddy could tell that you are going to be an attachment figure if you have been this level of caregiver at those critical times in their life. To a child, you are functionally a mother. So I don't have any dramas with that. But it's also nothing that I think you really need to deal with. It's sort of like, instead, it's just a bit of a celebration of, it's really cool that you were able to invest in these children to the extent where you're in such a supportive role that they basically just think of you as a mother figure. Having said that, that's a lot of responsibility for a 11 to 18-year-old, like later on, sure, but certainly around that. That's a lot of responsibility on a little kid. And we probably need to look a little bit about what did you miss? What have you lost by the investment that you've made in these children? It's sort of from that two-part perspective. That's awesome. I love the fact that you put that time and investment into the children. And that came at a cost to yourself, and we want to be careful of that. Do you have the sort of sharpened social skills that you need, given that you spent your high school looking after children? Did you get the sort of interaction that would allow you to be able to appropriately see when people are being manipulative and otherwise negative? And, just generally the awful things that happen in high school are actually really helpful in showing you the sorts of people that people are for the rest of their life. And I'd be just a little bit concerned around there, because it would tell me that this person may also have difficulty when they come to looking for life partners and stuff like that. Being able to appropriately weed out people that are manipulative. If this person has been easily manipulated in the past, I would hazard a guess that could be the case in the future. And so I'd be looking at doing things like teaching her the no test and stuff like that, things that help her to keep herself safe in relationships and to assess the character of people in advance. So that's roughly how I would break down that kind of a situation. It's an interesting one. It strikes me as quite legitimate. I don't really see holes in the story. This person writes like an 18-year-old. They have 18-year-old issues. And if this is not a real person and is in fact creative writing, it is well put together. This is a person that could definitely exist. All right. Thanks. That was fun. We'll do another breakdown another time.